Hey, Rhinos, we're here today on episode 3 of our new Rhino podcast. It's been dubbed that. We're just going to go with it. We're here with Coach Cassie today. She is our nutrition coach on site and our client success manager. And if you haven't had a chance to talk to Cassie yet, I hope you take the time to watch this. She has an amazing social media presence where she gets very authentic and deep with her own story and different coaching tips. So I hope you follow her, and we're going to take a few minutes here and just get to know Cassie a little bit better. So Cassie, welcome today.
Hello, thank you for doing this. I think this is so fun, that a cool way for everyone to get to know the coaches a little bit deeper, especially those who don't work with certain coaches regularly or go to certain classes or things like that. So this is super awesome.
I know our coaching team is so cool, right? Like everybody's so different, and I love that. Yeah, yes, we should have done this a long time ago.
I know. So anyway, all that being said, I'm Cassie Anglin, and I'm the nutrition and wellness coach and also the client success manager here at Camp Rhino. I am super passionate about all things nutrition and wellness. It is basically my life. I love learning about personal development and always pursuing growth for myself in my life, and then helping transfer that information to those around me so that I can help them grow into their best selves. So that's my deepest passion in life, and I just want to help people.
I love it. I love one of the things that I noticed when you started with us as a member years ago, and when we were first open, and then you went away for a little while and we're having babies and doing things and life stuff, right? And then when you came back to us, it was like this perfect timing. I remember talking about that with you, about it was just like this perfect moment where we were getting ready to look for somebody for nutrition, and you kind of came into our lives at that time talking about nutrition. And I remember having conversations with you at the very beginning, and I just felt like this is supposed to happen. She is supposed to be here. You're supposed to be on our team. The passion that you have for nutrition and for people and for health in general is so, like, it just shows so much in everything you do. Not just social media. Social media is like highlight reels of what people want the world to see, right? But you're one of the very few people that I can honestly say that their highlight reel on social media looks exactly like what we also hear and see behind the scenes.
Wow,
so I think that's so cool.
Thank you.
It's really rare. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's
walking the talk is something that's very high value in my life. I don't think that as a leader or as a coach or anything in general that I could be taken seriously if I'm not doing the things that I'm preaching. And that's not necessarily to knock anybody, but I just find it's hard to take a teacher or a coach or a leader seriously if you're like, wait, you don't have that together in your life. So why should I be taking advice from you? It's kind of a thing. So in that way, it's important to me, but also because I want to know what it feels like to be walking those journeys. I want to be able to have my information and my education be authentic and understood. One of my strengths, I feel like, is empathy. So I really try and understand people, but I feel like I can't understand them if I don't at least try and go on that journey on my own. So it's something that's super important to me.
Right. And I think you said a word too that was kind of coming to mind when you said that was authentic. And I think that one of the things I noticed, last week, you had a rough day, and you were also authentic about that. And what I thought was really cool was you didn't just have a rough day and go online and complain about a rough day. You said, today's been a hard day. These are the things I'm going to do to support myself in this day. In this moment, these are the things I need to do. And I think that's an area that a lot of us probably struggle with. A lot of people in general struggle with, is finding what are the tools that you can utilize for yourself to bring you out of that or to get you through that day. Because there's moments that are usually temporary, and oftentimes can be helped and assisted with just little different decisions, right? Treating ourselves right, and feeding our bodies well, and going out and getting sunshine, and just doing different types of things that can affect the chemical balance in our bodies and hormones. I just loved how authentic you were about that, because when you say that about leaders and coaches being authentic and to be taken seriously, it doesn't mean they're perfect. It means that they utilize the same tools that they're telling you to utilize, right? So
exactly. Thank you so much. I'm all about all about those little habits. Anyone who's done a Kickstart with me now, or anyone that's an Essentials member that has come to see me, that's literally what I talk about more than anything else. Is like, it's not necessarily like what you're eating, or it's what you're doing or not doing. It's your habits in your life. And when, I don't know who said it, but I always reference the quote, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. Because you can want something so bad, but just not have the right mindset, or you're working against your own chemical biology of like what's been ingrained in your brain for so long. So if we can more focus on, like you said, those little things like getting outside, meditating, feeding your body right, just little habits that are in your every single day, that will get you where you need to be so much more efficiently and consistently and sustainably. And I think that that's the ultimate goal for me anyway. I like to think of health more in terms of longevity, and like, what do I want my life and my health to look like when I'm 70, 80, 90 years old, and not just right now, what pant size am I? Because although it's still important to some, and it does, matter, I think that what matters more is how we feel and how we'll be able to function throughout the course of our lives.
Right. That's powerful, that quote. Will you say that quote again? I feel like I need to write it down after this, but will you say that quote again?
I know. I wish I knew whose quote it is.
We'll Google it.
We don't rise to the level. Right? Yeah. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our habits.
Yeah. That needs to just be written down where we can see it like every day, just to remind ourselves that the habits are important. Yeah. Okay. So is there something now? My first question to you is going to be, what makes your soul sing? And I feel like we've been talking about that kind of already, but I know there's other things in your life that are very powerful for you as well.
Yeah.
So tell us about you, what makes you who you are, and what makes your soul sing.
Well, first and foremost, of course, like just taking care of myself. For a really long time, I was like a super, I guess you say, chronic people pleaser, and that everyone else's wellness and happiness around me was far more important than my own. And so it wasn't until, things happened in my life where I learned to invest in me, that I learned that I could be a better me for those around me and make people happier because I'm better. But it was kind of that shift in my mindset. So taking care of myself is like my utmost priority, and living in alignment and living in balance of my values and who I know I'm capable of being. People think I'm crazy, but if I'm literally living out of alignment, or like if I'm doing something I know that I shouldn't be, so to speak, it literally like eats me inside. Like I'm just not comfortable in my skin if I'm doing things against my values. And so I've learned that about myself. And now that I know I can be a better person if I'm not preoccupied and, anxious about like, I didn't do what I know I'm capable of, I can just show up better as a mom and as a coach and every other role that I have in my life if I take care of myself. So that truly makes my soul sing when I'm having a day where I can check all my things off my list that I took care of myself and things like that. Then I feel fulfilled and my cup is full so I can give to others. To piggyback on that, another thing that makes my soul sing is just helping people realize like what they're capable of and their potential. Because I think so often we just sell ourselves so short and we don't give ourselves enough credit. And so by being able to help others realize their full potential and what they're capable of, that is something that it's just a feeling that you can't even put a price on. It's amazing. And then of course I'm a mom. And I have a husband that I love dearly, and my family is my everything. And so, of course, everything that I do, even for my health and my wellness, is to support them and their health and well-being. And it's just all a ripple effect. I really think that your nutrition and your wellness ties into literally every single part of your life, and you don't even realize it until you start focusing on it more. And then you're like, holy crap, this is everything.
Right. How many people have you met with where you've prescribed, I use the word prescribed loosely, right? You're obviously not a doctor, but like where you've given them something, a suggested, diet to follow with healthy foods, eliminating some of the stuff that, can change our chemical balances in poor ways and not help us. And how many times have you seen like total change around of how they feel every day, of their mood and like their sleeping patterns, and just everything can change for a lot of people. How many times have you seen that? I bet a ton, right?
It's countless. I can't even put a number on it.
Like even just 7.
Right.
At least 7.
Exactly. Even this kickstart that we just did with the members, like I had them just drinking more water, like staying hydrated, like something that seems almost silly. It's so simple, right? I know I have mine right here too. And just reporting like I had more energy for my workout from drinking more water. I had more energy. I wasn't crashing in the middle of the day or having these crazy cravings because I was drinking more water. And that's just, related to coming to the gym type of a thing. So like think of all the other ways that you can be impacted by drinking enough water and having more energy in your day. It's wild, just these simple things, how much they can impact you.
So I have a question for you then. What is it? Because you and I both know, and everybody's a lot of people are gonna relate to this. I don't want to say everybody. Habits are so hard to keep doing every day. Like we know when we're in it. I've talked to so many people over the years that when they're in it, they say these things like, oh my gosh, just drinking water every day. Like you said, it changes how I feel. It changes how my workouts feel. I have more energy. This is amazing. I'm gonna do it forever. And then like a week later, they're like, yeah, I'm off. I'm not drinking my water. And I'm not like, why do we do that when we know how good it feels when we are following the ways? How do we change that? Because it's something that we know it's great for us, but it's hard to still stick to, right? So what is the trick to that? Is there something people can take from this that will help them with that?
Yeah. A couple things come to mind when you ask me a question like that. The first is like, I'm super nerd about like how the brain works, right? And like that has a lot to do with habits. And like, so our brains are wired to do things as simple and easy as possible. So we're always going to take the path of least resistance. But unfortunately, for some of us, the path of least resistance is what we know and have been doing for years and years and years, right? So if we have not been drinking water and it's not something that we're used to, and that's been our life for 10, 15, 20 years, you're battling 10, 15, 20 years of habit that's been ingrained in your brain, and you're expecting it to be fixed in a week. And so that's the other part, right? Is like we have to manage our expectations. That's why I like, fad diets. I just could go on a whole other rant about like, although they do have their purpose in some way and they do well, you do see results, they don't last because your expectations are not managed in a realistic way. We want that instant gratification. We want to have that winning lottery ticket to get us millions. Whereas if we just could realize that little tiny things every day, just the impact they can have over a long period of time, that's going to get us where we need to be. But we want that instant gratification so bad that it's really difficult for us to be fulfilled by drinking water every day. Even though we know it will make us feel good. And the same applies to like eating healthy, and like food that is better and more nutritious for you is like, we all know, we know what we should be eating, but it's not fun necessarily. It's not convenient. It doesn't give us that instant gratification emotion. So it's like, why do it? Right. So it's it is a mindset shift completely.
Right. I mean, that right there, and it may sound like lightweight, type stuff, but that right there is like, it's the deal, right? That's the real deal. That's all of it right there. Yeah. When Melissa and I talked, Coach Melissa, on last week, we kept coming back to the word consistency, and that's kind of what's coming through with you too. It's just building that daily consistency of habit change, and that it doesn't have to be this major thing. It's just consistent. You're not always going to be, perform like an Olympian, but just something every day is still something every day.
Totally. Exactly.
That's the deep stuff. Everybody should take that right now. Take notes, write it down.
Yeah.
No big fancy trick to this. And talk to Cassie. And I'm going to come back to your social media again, because when you were saying that, it reminded me of a post that you put up the other day talking about the 1% of those little things and the growth of doing it every day compared to not doing it every day. And it was a really cool post.
Yeah, that graph and that quote that I put on there is from one of my favorite books. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. So if you haven't read it and you are a nerd or about personal development,
literally,
yes, you have it.
Literally sitting next to me right now. I love that.
It really, I feel like it's very simplistic. Like sometimes books like that can be really scientific and boring, and like you don't really understand. It's hard to soak up, but it's very simplistic in the way that he explains it. And it's like these aha moments of like, oh man, like, wow, this is like a big deal. My little tiny habits every day. So I recommend that one for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. What got you into nutrition coaching? Why did you decide to coach people? Obviously, we know that you have a love for people and passion about health, but tell us the story because I know why, right? We've talked about this, but not a lot of people do, and I think they should.
Yeah. And I briefly mentioned it, at team meetings and stuff like that too, but it is something I feel like I should share more. So I'm glad that you asked me this. So like you said in the very beginning, I was a member at Camp Rhino. I'm going to back up even beyond before that. Fitness was always something that was like part of my life growing up. I was in sports. My mom was active. So we always like movement was a great thing, but like the food side was never, like it was very, standard American diet, just kind of like you'd see in an everyday person's house. Lots of packaged foods, Pop-Tarts, fruit snacks, all the things that are yummy but not nutritious at all. And that's how I grew up eating. And I grew up with the mindset and was taught the mindset. And this isn't to knock my mom. I love you, Mom. But I was taught with the mindset of you can eat whatever you want so long as you work out. And that's a very common thing that I still see right now. So that's another thing I always try and work on with people. But so again, into my adulthood, this was a mind frame that I took in and I was interested in nutrition and interested in health, but it was always from the perspective of exercise. And so then I was a member at Camp Rhino, and I had done CrossFit before that, but my first son was about one or two at the time, and I was trying to get back in shape, things like that, and still was exercising, working out really hard. I came 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I only had one car at the time, so I would walk here from home, which I don't live far, but it's like a mile.
I knew that.
We took the car, like I would walk here. Like it was a big commitment for me to come here like 5 days a week, and it was a big part of my life. And that was in like 2018. And then 2019, all of a sudden, I got hit with really massive anxiety. Anxiety is something that runs in my family, but it's never something I necessarily struggled with, like from a clinical anxiety standpoint. And so I was having like massive panic attacks, like debilitating. The worst anxiety you could imagine was what I was dealing with. And one of the triggers was exercising, because anytime my heart would pound, I would think I was having a heart attack, and it would send me into this spiral of like, I'm dying, and like I couldn't even exercise. So it was like this one thing that I did for my health was gone. And then I was struggling with anxiety. And I hesitate to say this because this isn't to knock in, but I don't love taking medication personally. And so it was like a very humbling moment of like, do I go to the doctor for this because I know that there's a medication that can fix it, or do I get deeper? Do I get to the root of actually what's going on? Because sometimes, not all the time, sometimes there are ways to fix a lot of health problems that don't just have a Band-Aid effect, right? And so that was something that I had started learning about and was, starting to get passionate about. And so I chose to take the path of like, okay, I'm going to figure this out and figure where this is coming from and not just like try and get rid of it. So it taught me a lot of things, right? It taught me how to lean into my emotions and be more resilient instead of being afraid all the time. And I had a lot of fears about, dying, and that I was having these health problems, and there was something more wrong with me than there actually was. And that was always the trigger. And so that was difficult because it took away a lot of these pillars of my life that I was really proud of, like my exercise and my strength in my body. And then I couldn't be a good mom because I was worried every single day, and I'm having these panic attacks, and it was hard on my marriage. And so it was this very dark time in my life for sure. But long story short, because I'm kind of making it a long story, I started really focusing on my health and my food, right? I couldn't work out so like intensely like I loved to with CrossFits and boot camps. So I started doing yoga. And Yoga with Adrienne, she has like hundreds of videos online. That's where I started. And there was like, 15-minute yoga for anxiety. And I would just do that. And that would be the minimum of what I would do each day. And it was calm enough so it wouldn't make my heart pound, so it wouldn't trigger anything for me. And then I also just started listening to podcasts and reading books and doing things like crazy to really understand like what food-wise or could it be impacting my brain or impacting the way that my body was functioning. And essentially I just cleaned up my diet and I slowed down. I didn't hit things so hard, and I just food alone. I wouldn't say I cured my anxiety. Like I still have days where I'm anxious, and I think anxiety is an everyday feeling, right? But that from that clinical panic standpoint,
Right.
I haven't had a panic attack in a year, maybe year plus.
That's
And
amazing.
that was with everything that happened, with COVID last year, which was a very anxiety inducing thing. And it's because I truly firmly believe I learned how to support my body and my health with how I was nourishing myself.
Right.
The foods that I was eating, because I said I thought I could eat whatever I wanted, were things that were making me sick inside, truly. And even though it wasn't manifesting, thank God, as digestive problems or anything else, it was manifesting as my body was letting me know, like, hey, something's not right here.
Right.
And we don't like how you're feeding us. So it was trying to let me know. And I, thankfully I listened. And so anyway, last year during COVID, during all the time I was an esthetician, and I obviously got shut down, couldn't be an esthetician. And I thought, you know what, this saved me from a life of like misery. Like I could have easily lived a life every single day of like, I hope I don't have a panic attack today, which I know some people struggle with that, and it's like heartbreaking. And that's not how I want to live. And I want to inspire people and show them that they don't have to live like that either. So during COVID, during the shutdown, I signed up to get my nutrition certification and my holistic it's IIN, so it's integrative. It's very holistic point of view. And I stopped doing aesthetics altogether and just have committed my life to this because it truly changed my life, and I want to show people that it can change theirs too.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, your story is powerful. The stuff that you've experienced is powerful. I believe in the healing of people's stories to others. So many times that somebody will come into your path that needs to hear that someone else has been there.
Yeah.
And, we often get in this stuck space where we feel like we're the only one that's ever experienced this thing, and it becomes like a guilt thing. It becomes a shame thing. It becomes embarrassment. It becomes, people are afraid to go talk to somebody about it because they think that somebody's going to not understand them, or there's so many things that come from that. And so being able to know that you have this story of your own experiences with it, I think will open you up to be able to help so many more people, especially when you've experienced anxiety, because a lot of people with anxiety feel like they're like something's wrong with them, right? Why can't I control this? Why can't I manage this? And anxiety, man, it can be so deep. It can be so much deeper than that. I do love that you advocated for yourself, though, in the sense that you asked yourself, which path do I want to go down? Because obviously the pharmaceutical path is there, and with psychological disorders and things like that, there's a lot of things out there that can help people.
Right. Absolutely.
There's also a ton that you can do yourself. And so I love that you went that path first, and found something for yourself that was holistic and something you could manage yourself. Yeah,
that was something that was really, really important to me. And I'm very proud of now too, in hindsight, because that definitely wasn't the easy way, and it probably took a lot longer to feel better. But again, that literally goes back to the earlier part of our conversation of it doesn't happen overnight. Things don't change just because we start doing something today. It's not going to be different tomorrow. It's going to take time.
Right.
But I think not to sound braggy, but I'm literally a walking proof that if you continue to invest in yourself every single day and do the right things for your health and your body, you can heal. And that's powerful to understand, but you just have to wrap your mind around the fact that it's not going to happen in a week or a month necessarily, right? It's going to take some time, and that instant gratification kind of has to damper down a little bit and just be understood that this is going to take time, but it's going to be worth it.
Right. There's so many powerful things that you have to say. I hope that everybody just takes time to get to know you outside of this, honestly, because I do think that you have a lot of, this is one of the reasons I love your social media. There's a lot of, coaches and things that I follow on social media, but you always have really important, valuable things to say. And there's very few people that I follow on social media that I actually read everything that they post, right? Because that sometimes it's, fluffy or whatever, it doesn't always leave me with a gem. And
Right.
You and I share the love of personal development. That's one of the things we have in common. So I'm always looking for people to follow that I get like take something away from, that I walk away and I read something and I'm like, oh wow, that changes my whole thinking today. I'm gonna text like 5 people that, and I'm gonna do that. And I feel like your posts are always like that. So I hope people get to know you after this more so than they are right now. I think they have a lot to learn. Let's see here. I want you to, okay, so you talked about, I want to point out something else. Earlier on, when you were talking about who you are, I think there's one really important thing here that it won't connect with everybody, but I think there's going to be a lot of moms that are going to connect with this. And probably even fathers that will connect with this, depending on what kind of life situations they're in. You are an at-home mom, and when I asked you to describe yourself and the things that matter to you most, the very first thing that you brought up was taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is so powerful, because the need to say I'm a mom, first and foremost, is like so strong for so many parents, I should say. I'm a mom or I'm a dad. It's the first thing we see ourselves as. It's how we identify in our lives. And we've talked about this before, where we identify is where we spend our time.
Right.
So if you identify as a mom, or you identify as a parent in general, that's the first thing that all of your time gets put into.
Right.
And because that's just how you see yourself as a human. And so the fact that the first thing you recognize and identify is, I take care of myself, because you know that when you take care of you, you will be a better parent, you will be a better spouse, you will be a better human in general.
Yeah.
That is something we all have to like try to figure out how to do, and it's so hard to do.
Right.
So that in itself was huge. And it sounds like you weren't always doing that.
No. And that could be a whole other conversation we have for another time. But Cassie. Truly is like, and I don't mean to sound like the society does this to us and that, but like it really is something that, like, of course I'm proud to be a mom. Of course, it's like one of the hardest things I've ever done and currently I'm doing ever, right? But like, it doesn't define me, because I know, although I'll always be a mom, my kids are going to be adults, and then I'm still going to be me. And so then I've seen it time and time again of parents having kids leave the house and then they don't know what to do. They have, all of their time has been spent, being a mom or being a dad, and then their identity is lost, like you said. And so I think that I've seen that played out in my own life too. And so I'm just motivated a lot by things I've seen in my life that I say, I don't want that. And so that's just been just another part of my motivation. And I just see it all the time, and it makes me sad. I feel for people that, really are just drowning in all that is parenthood, because it's exhausting and it's difficult. But I find that, like, my kid's going to be okay if I take 10 more minutes to like read my personal development book or go to the gym for an hour. Like, those little moments aren't going to impact them so much that I'm gone, right? And so and if that is what's going to make me be more present, be more patient, be setting an example, I think, like, again, walking the walk, right? Your kids are watching every single thing that you do. So if your child is watching you be walked on by everything else in your life because you can't stand up for yourself or you don't feel good, they're going to see that. And like, I feel like that sounds kind of mean and kind of harsh, but like, it's like that true reality of like, we need to be raising generations of kids that advocate for themselves and take care of themselves. And it's going to, more by what we say, it's by what we do. We need to show that example. And so of course, like, everyone is here as a member moving their bodies, and like, what a beautiful example of taking care of yourself, right? Like, look, I'm going to the gym and I'm taking care of my body because I love myself and I want to be healthy. But like, where are the other ways we can also do that too? I think it's just important to find those and walk that walk too.
Very cool. Okay. I'm going to go to my last question. I'm going to ask this of everybody, and I know you're going to have things to say here because of your personal development background. What are you currently studying and learning right now? What's your focus?
Well, right now I'm reading the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. So I always have a book that I'm reading. I always try and read at least 10 pages a day. And so that's the book I'm reading right now. And it's been really interesting because I feel like it translates into lots of areas of my life. How to have more self-esteem for myself, how to encourage more self-esteem in others, whether as a coach or as a parent, and just like how having self-esteem can impact everything that we do. And so I'm learning about how to inspire that in others and how to teach that to others, but also have that in myself. And one of the things that it actually says in there is, it's just so funny, all of this conversation is tying together so beautifully. But it's talking about how there was like an old adage or saying of like a Buddhist monk, and these people in the town came to the Buddhist monk and said, I have a really hard time with my sweets problem. Can you please teach me how to stop eating so much sugar? And the Buddhist monk said, go home and come back in 2 weeks. And they were like, okay. And then they came back in 2 weeks and they were like, why did you have us go home for 2 weeks? And he said, because I also have a problem with sugar and I needed to be able to teach you properly with like knowing myself first. And I just thought like, wow, this is like so cool and so much that I try and live by, but it's perfect because, you know, if teachers don't have self-esteem, how can they teach proper self-esteem to our students in schools? And if coaches, like here in the gym, like if we're always beating ourselves up personally, like how can we translate that into our members and things like that? And so it's been kind of a cool topic to see how that all around impacts our lives in the world that we live in too. So I'm learning all about self-esteem right now.
That's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what all of your takeaways are, you know, from that. That's cool. Very cool. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna actually have you end with one last thing, and then we're gonna take off. If you had one tip for somebody who's just trying to get started or restarted back on their habit building, if you had one thing to tell them to start with, what would you suggest? And I'm sure that changes for everybody, but what would you suggest, like as a whole, if they had just one small thing to do, what would you suggest them do?
Yeah. This is like a question, right? I think I would just say start small. Because I think what happens a lot of the times is we know so much of what we should be doing, the shoulds, right? We need to eat healthier, we need to drink more water, we need to be exercising, we need to be doing all the things. And we have so much that we need to do that we do nothing because we have that like analysis paralysis of like, what do I do first, right? None of one of those things is better than another. So I would say start with the one thing that you feel like you need most. Like, do you feel like exercising is going to help invigorate you? Do you think drinking water because you're so dehydrated is going to help make you feel more energized? But just choose that one thing and stick to that first. Like, don't try and add in all these 25 different things because that's when you're going to get too overwhelmed and it's not going to last. So I would say just choose the one thing that you feel the most pulled to because that's probably the thing that you're meant to be doing. And it's the thing that you'll feel like you're motivated to stick to the most.
I love that. That's a great tip. Everybody should take note of that. Write it down. Make it something. They don't have to start with the 75 hard, right? They can just one thing. You don't have to go crazy. I love that. That's excellent. That's awesome. Okay, awesome. Cassie, thank you so much for your time.
I love
100 things I would love to ask you on camera, but this has gone on. I don't want to take up everybody's all day, right? But if there's more things that you want to know about Cassie, you guys come in and talk to her. You can schedule single sessions with her as a nutrition coach, nutrition and wellness coach, or you can do packages with her and work with her more full time if you're looking for something more intensive. Please come and talk to her. Talk to the front desk if you have questions, or reach out to Cassie yourself. Okay. So thanks so much for coming, and we'll see you guys all later.
Thank you. Bye.